Went from condos to Pop's house, on calls now bus routes. Now today, we have a special guest in the building. Today I have Terrence, aka I See Greatness, here to talk about his incredible journey, motivating, developing, and building up the community. And I am excited to finally have him here because we talked about it already. But I am excited to finally have him here. How you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm phenomenal, man. Phenomenal, man. It feels great. It's an honor to be here in front of you, man. I've been a fan of your podcast, man, for a minute. And I like to say that we're cut from the same cloth. You know what I mean? You know, it's a lot of positivity, and it's very rare that you can find, you know, positive men like ourselves who are willing to pour into the community, you know, and be selfless with it, man. You definitely one of those people. So it's definitely an honor to be here in front of you, brother.
Man, I appreciate that, brother. You know, I met you a couple of times already, and I just liked everything that you were doing. You know, just seeing how, you know, inspiring and motivating you are. And also just seeing what you do when it comes down to the youth. That's important. I always say, you know, whatever you're doing in your life, great. You know, you're utilizing your talents and abilities and doing great things. That's great. But what are you doing to give back? What are you doing when it comes down to these babies, to these kids? You know, because they need direction. They need guidance. And right now, the internet is guiding a lot of them, because they don't have the proper, you know, tools in their household when it comes down to the leaders that are in their households, right? You know, so it's important to be there for the youth, and I was able to see that's something that you're doing, brother. So, hey, man, I appreciate everything you're doing too, because that's important to me just as much as it's important to you, brother.
Man, I appreciate that, man. And that's what it's about, you know, about giving back. You know, I like to say that no man or woman becomes rich unless he or she enriches others. If you haven't received the things in your life that you know you deserve, it's probably because you haven't given the things you know you owe. In order to receive more, one must give more. And when you give, it's not just has to be a monetary thing. You know, it could be you know, of your time. It could be, you know, giving, you know, of your resources. It can be, you know, as long as you're giving love, you know what I mean? Giving positivity. You know, these are very resourceful resources that you may not know that you can give, but once you identify that this is what you can give, you know what I mean, then that's the true definition of being selfless. You know, you just continue to just pour, and it becomes a habit. You know, I'm a habitual giver. You know what I mean? You know, and I had to chill out sometimes because one time when you're giving too much, you have to be sure that you're receiving so that you're filled enough so that you can give. You know, so how do you feel yourself? You know, you surround yourself by greatness. You know what I mean? These are some of my monetary values. Is spending time with my brother Cowboy. You know what I mean? Spending time with great people like you. Spending my time with a lot of the influential people and a lot of the people down on Skid Row. And a lot of the children. Because I learn more from the children than I do the adults.
Yeah.
Gosh,
yeah.
You know,
that's a fact.
I learned more about AI, you know what I mean, from kids than I know some of the top AI people in the world. You know what I mean? But I learned more about AI than making a song. I learned how to making a song from one of my mentees, man.
Wow.
It's freaking amazing.
Wow, that's amazing, brother. That's amazing. Man, so you know, this is your first time sitting down with me, man, on a podcast. So I want to go to the start from the beginning, man, and get your story. So with that being said, you from the D, right? Detroit?
Yes, sir. West Side, Linwood, Puritan, Detroit, Cass Tech. I just missed the class reunion. Sorry, y'all. But yes, sir. Detroit all day. But I live here in LA, though, and I love LA.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. So just give us a little bit of what it was like growing up in the D, because a lot of people like myself, I don't know too much about Detroit. So what was it like growing up in the D as a child, brother?
It was great. You know, it was not as typical as you would expect, you know, community. You know, coming up in Detroit, you know, you had your negative side, you know, at the time our area, you know, where you talking about like BMF and you're talking about, the YBI and the Crazy Days, and we had some strong black leadership in the city. And also a lot of some corruptions and crimes, but we had a lot of greatness coming out of the city. You know, we were just moving off the verge of Motown. You know, so we had the entertainment, you know, on lock, you know, at that point in time. You know, so and that was a vibe. My family, you know, was part of, the media, the music industry there in Detroit. and it was an amazing time. You know, I was fortunate. You know, I grew up with my grandmother, my great grandmother, my brother, my cousin, and my family. You know, I loved it. You know, and their memories that they have. You know, some great memories that happened in Detroit.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So I know you talked about growing up with your grandmother and your cousins and stuff. But did you have siblings as well?
Yeah, I have a brother and I got a sister, you know, and I got two brothers and a sister, you know, and my cousin, I claim her as my sister, you know, because we all grew up together. And my I have my brother and my sister, they went with my mom when my mom went to Texas back in the day. You know, it was one of those kind of stories. You know, so yeah, I got some siblings. I'm the oldest, and you know, I'm the oldest, the wisest, but not the smartest. You know what I mean? Shout out to my sister and shout out to my brother. They're great at what they're doing, and then shout out to my little brother too. He's figuring out life. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to keep on pouring into him. You know.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So I know you say your mom went off to Texas, but what was your relationship like with your parents growing up?
You know, I honestly I didn't really meet my mom till I was 17 years old. You know, she kind of went about her way when I was 3 years old, and you know, I think I saw her one time before I was 17. You know, but my pop, he was my pop, my dad, my grandmother, and my great grandmother. They were the roots. You know, to me, you know, growing up, you know, it wasn't a typical childhood, but it was a very necessary childhood. For me to become the person I became, and I'm thankful. You know, I mean, my dad. My dad. He's right now. He's as healthy as he's ever been. You know, what I mean, he's nice. He listens to me. You know, and I listen to him. There's a great relationship now. You know, and my brother. You know, he just had a gallbladder surgery, and I spent a couple weeks, you know, back and forth checking on him, and so, you know, he's recovering real well, and we're just keep on moving. So I'm thankful for how it turned out. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm thankful for it. When you can step back and outside and be like, you know what? You know, I might not have been typical, but it was very necessary, you know, for me to become this person, you know?
Yeah, I got you. Wow. Hey, well said, brother. Well said. You know, so I know your journey, you know, now with a lot of things, you know, that you've told me and who you are as a person with the things that you are going for and going after in life, right? But growing up, would you say as a kid, what path were you on? Were you on a path of staying out of trouble and staying out the way, or did you get into a lot of trouble as a kid growing up?
I never really got into much trouble. I was fortunate that the neighborhood that I grew up in, you know, Puritan and Linwood area, you know, shout out to y'all, you know, I know y'all love me and you guys lived through me since I'm out here, you know, and, we got a lot of Detroit greatness out here in LA too, from my neighborhood, you know, it's a great Detroit, you know, it's a Detroiters dream to come out here in LA and survive, you know, but it was great.
I had to show 'em that I wasn't made. I thank God.